Jeez, I didn't mean to do that.
Don't. Open it up.
Open what up?
Make the meeting the whole screen.
Okay.
Now you can pause the recording down the bottom.
End or pause?
In from end, you got two in from end.
Okay,
Pause.
got it.
Notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, including being sent to the record desk or posted on the borough website, borough social media, the borough bulletin board, the borough hall, and is being publicly available. If I could ask everyone to see that you're able to stand for the pledge of allegiance, followed by the minute sign.
The United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Commissioner Freud. Commissioner Seidel.
Here.
Commissioner Bianco Bezek. Okay, next up, we have our monthly departmental report. We're missing a few people, and I ask those who are here to keep it brief, since next month we will be doing year-end report. But of course, we welcome our Lieutenant Holloway, who's standing in for Chief Cutler this evening. We have Joanna. We also have Chief Warden, so we have public safety. To kick things off, I'll start with Lieutenant Holloway, please.
Hey, good evening, all. The Haddonfield Police Department for the month of November responded to or generated 1,590 calls for service. Of those calls, 202 motor vehicle stops. Total summonses issued, that's parking and moving, was 463. Some of the larger categories for the services, calls for service, were medical calls, building and property checks, traffic enforcement, non-criminal investigations, such as suspicious incidents or suspicious people, or alarm calls. We had 8 fraud reports. We had 21 thefts that were listed. Of those thefts, it was political signs in the beginning part of the month of November. And there were numerous shopliftings, predominantly at CVS and the Acme. And we had some package thefts. Brief, excerpt on that. Just make sure when you guys are getting things delivered to your homes, if you can track it, please do. When it's delivered, if you can, try to bring that thing in promptly. If you can't, maybe have a neighbor or somebody nearby, a family or friend, stop in to pick it up. We will see, around this time, the holiday time, the uptick in package thefts. We did have 2 burglaries in the month of November. One was to the office building at 35 Kings East. There was no forced entry. Nothing was taken from inside the office, just some things moved around the desk. And there was a shed that was entered on the unit block of Evergreen Lane, where there were some old tools that were taken. With the cold weather approaching, now that we're here in the wintertime, please dress warm for outside, right? Be advised or aware of your climate. If you're going for a run, especially in the evening or early morning hours, please wear reflective clothing. Also, be cautious when starting your vehicles and leaving them running in the driveway or wherever you may be to warm them up. People that are walking by may have an opportunity to jump in that vehicle and take it from you. So if you do have it running, make sure you take the key fob with you, lock it up so you don't get put in that predicament. I'd also like to welcome back, if I could, Officer Leverick, retired lieutenant from our department. He is now a Class 2 officer, and his main duties will be downtown. So we will have a more of a presence like we did when we had Officer Kirk Ernie down there during the downtown business times, after school hours for the kids, as well as all the candlelight shopping here in December. He was out last Friday walking the businesses as well. He'll also be a part of events in town, and he'll handle our court duties. As the mayor mentioned, year-end reports will be coming out next month in the month of January for year-end of 2024. With respect to any type of drone activity, unfortunately, we know as much as you do. They haven't passed anything down. They're telling us they're not really sure. So we're still in a holding pattern on that front. So if you have any questions about that, obviously you can feel free to call us, but as soon as we get the information, we will absolutely pass it along to you. So, thank you.
As my holiday present to all of you, I'll be very brief tonight, all right? So, we had 62 fire calls, 5 mutual aid calls for the month of November. We had 11 EMS calls, only 28 out of town, which is showing a great improvement. Two things I want to stress, because 2 of the calls that we had of significance in November had to do both with C's. One, candles, and the other chimneys. Please get your chimneys swept out before you throw a log in there, a door flame, or whatever. There's a lot of stuff that stores up there and catches fire, and candles, all right? Cats love knocking candles over, in case you didn't know. Please limit them, make sure you're in the room with them, blow them out when you leave. We have the end of the year report coming up in only a couple of weeks. I'll save everything for that. So have a very nice holiday and safe. Hopefully we see each other on Kings Highway and not at your houses for anything. So, all right, thanks, folks.
Joanne, I'll turn it over to you for public affairs.
I will be brief as well. The highlights for November was, we started a new borough bulletin. We've issued a November and December. We put it on the app and it lives on the public affairs page of the website if you'd like to read it. We also, that will be released monthly on or about the first of the month, depending on what day the first falls on. Public safety, we've started a quarterly news letter with both departments. And that is also up on the public affairs website. There's some great tips from both chiefs on there. If you would like to take a look, a lot of good winter safety tips on there. We had a great tree lighting and I'll speak a little bit, Michael's not here, from the downtown, a wonderful weekend, business weekend for small business, Saturday and Sunday, and brunch big, shop small. We had great press. We had 4 businesses live, 2 Friday morning, 2 Saturday morning. Plus we had Friday night packages from all 3 TV stations downtown. So it was really nice. And I'll end it at that. Happy holidays, everybody.
And only point out that, collections are doing well, our spending is on pace. And, when it comes to the tax collection itself, we only had about 2 columns just with the retrospect, which is way less than probably every other town, so, thanks for paying your taxes on time.
Mr. Troy.
Thank you. Why don't we start with our engineer tonight, Doug, since, Bill was away, then I'll take on the work into that.
Just for the, just some highlights, just the road projects, they're all complete, with the exception of minor punch list items. However, due to the cold weather and rain, they've kind of worked in between that, so. In the modern weather, get those finished up and then work to close out those projects for the borough and, DOT and some of the DOT projects. It's a good one. Thank you.
Are they all on? Are they all on?
All right, thanks, Doug. And just to give you an update on Public Works, the leaf collection is completed as of last week. We sent an announcement out about that via the Had No Happenings Act. So if you have leaves in front of your house, either take care of them by way of a professional or you bag them. Speaking of which, the first trash week of each month, we'll be collecting green cans and the untouchable paper bags. Please keep them less than 50 pounds. And on the 3rd week, starting in January, we'll be back to having the chipper, which will take care of tree branches and shrubs. So there's an opportunity to have that picked up starting in a couple of weeks. And that is a week.
I have been informed by Tiana, our municipal clerk, that we are going to be moving a proclamation for Board of Education month to January. And hopefully we will have a member or multiple members and our superintendent from Penfield School District here for that. So if you were here for the Board of Education proclamation, that will be next month. And, so with that, may I have a motion open for public comment for items listed on the agenda?
Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Vegas.
In favor. Just a reminder, if you are able to stand, please make your way to the podium here for the benefit of the microphone, the public here, as well as Deanna and those on Zoom. We will open to the room first, hijack, and each person will have 5 minutes. Joanna McDonald is keeping time, so please give her your attention if she calls for you or signals for you, just please be polite. And with that, Joanna, are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, go right ahead.
Good evening, my name is Jack Van Dalen. I live at 254 Kings Highway East. First comment has to do with the monthly departmental reports. My request is that you have a report also on litigation and legal issues. That the public knows very little about suits that are over abroad or suits against the public. Now, of course, you don't have to reveal things we talked about staff and time village matters or strategy that you have in the court yet. Pardon?
Thank you.
I'll start over. Good evening, my name is Jack Van Dalen. I live at 254 Kings Highway East. And my first comment has to do with your monthly departmental reports. I'm an attorney, so I guess this is particularly interesting to me, but I request that you have a section which perhaps Sal could handle, in which you describe the lawsuits that the borough may be involved in, litigation the borough may commence against someone, or litigation against the borough, and explain what they're about. Explain what the position is that the borough is taking in the litigation. Talking about what's in the public record, or what you feel you want to discuss about it. I'm not asking that you talk about attorney-client privilege matters that you discuss with Sal, or strategy that you've not yet, not yet filed in papers about in court, but tell us what's going on. I think that would be real helpful. Related to that, I noticed that there's a room for a closed session today, and any of that involved litigation, and if so, tell us what the litigation is you're gonna be talking about. Also, I've looked for, it's really a matter of transparency. I've looked for your closed session minutes. Used to be able to find them a couple of years ago, but I can't find them anywhere in your website. I looked pretty carefully today. There's just nothing about closed session minutes, which you have a legal obligation to develop and publish. Supposedly within a month, maybe 60 days. Well, along with that, just to look at your commission work session and public session meetings like this, we're way behind on the minutes. If they go back to July and June, they're supposed to be out in 30 days. It's really this week not having them out as the courts have talked about. Get them out there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, any comments on the minutes, just in case you have nothing from that, or
They should have been posted. They will get posted. They're complete and for the open public meetings, they will be definitely posted. My apologies for not being having them up.
Closed sessions also.
That would be for our solicitor to reply. We don't typically have never posted our closed session minutes.
We absolutely have looked at them in the past, and you have legal obligations for that. They're not private. They're minutes of the closed sessions, there may be redaction. They're supposed to be published.
That would be for,
If you want me to, so yes, John, I agree with you guys, there's a legal obligation to, refer to the, make available to the public, closed session, meeting minutes, whether that takes the form of some of the commission decisions, that goes on the borough website, it goes, available in some, having said that, any matter which is factual, litigation, is still active and ongoing. That's always redacted from even closed session meeting minutes, even the discussion of that, so it doesn't matter if it's closed. That would be the lead to a lot.
No, I understand you couldn't disclose conversations you're having about a piece of litigation. But the closed session minutes can say you discussed litigation X. And then go on.
Time's up.
Or you discuss contract Y.
Sir, time's up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was responding to.
I'm just letting you know.
She's doing her job.
And I had a false start to like.
I restarted it, just so you know.
I guess I would just say, there's no reason not to put them in the website. Like all the rest of them.
Thank you. Ian here on Walnut Street, just a couple of things. This, authorization to issue checks, fair share housing estimate refunds with all these, streets and avenues listed. These are all fair share housing locations, or have I misunderstood? Maple Avenue, Barwood, Hopkins, Ballard, Chestnut, on. I wish these had numbers, so I could always just, just refer to the page number, make it easier. It's, yeah, it's 2024-12-16-181.
This resolution 181 is, it's a separate resolution, and it's a list of the, refunds for payment of the development fees for construction. That deal with that are paid because of fair share housing costs, associated with their construction.
So are these fair share housing locations?
No, they're not. No, there is a
Okay.
requirement by the borough for residents to pay a percentage to fair share housing when they have new construction or major construction at their properties. And then once the property is assessed after the construction work, then if there was an overpayment of these development fees, then we would refund that difference.
Okay, so these aren't fair share housing
They are not,
at all.
no. But it funds the fair share housing development fee account.
Got it. All right, now, I see Tom Colavecchio, who's been our tax assessor for seems like ages. So we have a new person, Judy Shoemaker, from now on. All right, and also,
He's been working with Tom for a few years now, to take over as the assessor.
did he retire?
This, at the end of this month, when we actually appointed her, he's kind of out of the job.
Oh, that's a good way to put it. Yeah, I would appreciate, I know so many residents have a problem with this whole package. I don't know what is it, an inch or whatever it is. And it's given to us, when we come in, and we have, well, maybe, whatever. If you get here at 7:15, we have 15 minutes to go through this whole thing. Entire thing. And then when we speak, we have 5 minutes to go through this. 12 months a year, you have one commissioners meeting. That's 1 hour, 1 hour to view 12 of these. And as a result, people have questions, they don't get answered because of the precious 5 minutes. So I don't see why other places will put their agenda on their website on Friday before the meeting. Well, we have ours Monday, so it'll be Friday, and they could put all the attachments. Now, sometimes you have drafts and you can't make the final attachments, we understand that. But for the most part, most of the time you can put all of the attachments, then people can review these Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday before they come. And I think that's something to consider. And also, to be fair to all those people who are on Zoom, they don't have this. So they just listen to what's going on and they can't read anything, and they don't know if they have a question because they don't have this whole stack. So,
I'm speaking for Zoom and a lot of other residents who aren't happy. This has been going on for at least 4 years now. If we could put this on Friday, so everyone can review it and then, have their questions. Thank you.
And that's our goal, Amy, to have them up by noon on Friday. This Friday, I messed up because it was still there. So they didn't go on until Sunday.
Good evening, Joel Rosen, in Silent. First of all, I want to thank you all for the job that you do. Have respect for you, don't always agree, but I do. I am extremely concerned about the ongoing litigation involving, I'm not talking about the Hurd litigation, I'm talking about the litigation that's been pending for some time for the Superior Court in Camden. I know what the builder's remedy is. I'm not sure that the citizens in town understand completely what it can lead to. I'm not talking about affordable housing. That's a done deal. I can do that. It's the right thing. It's a lawful thing to do. But I'm extremely concerned that if there is not a compromise reached here, that the judge who is handling this case in all likelihood will drop the hammer, although I have no idea. Sal goes to court. He would have a better idea of that. So I just urge you to do that. So that parcel of land and other parcels around town don't turn into high rises with a 7-Eleven in the middle. That we have to pay for the maintenance of, we have to pay for the infrastructure of. And we've seen that the lost the ability to compromise. Not just here, but everywhere. And we've also seen to have lost the ability to discuss things in a civil manner. I'm not talking about you folks or anyone here. And I would just ask that we do the right thing, work out a compromise. Because if we don't, you all know what can happen. And I'm repeating myself, but I don't think that all folks in Hatfield know that we would be out of the game. The builder could put up whatever they want. We have to pay for the roads, the sewage, the legal fees. And if people think what's going on now is problematic, it will be, I think, disastrous for the town. Thank you for your time. I wish you all Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, but most importantly, good health and a Happy Hanukkah. Did I mention that thing? Oh, I did, okay. And good health to you and your families, including all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
All the shots coming from the there's a limited into.
Please mute yourselves. Joanna will try to mute everyone, but please keep yourselves on mute as well. Thank you.
I'm Dave Gianagar, 419 Road. I have several areas I want to talk about. I want to follow up about the posting in the minutes. And I wanted to ask, how far back are we on posting of the minutes?
I believe they're up through July, but I will get the others up that are done.
Is there a legal obligation for how current those minutes need to be?
I forget the statute specifically, they are done on a timely fashion.
Is
But
that-
whether or not they're posted, I don't know if the statute references that.
I'm with you. Would you consider July being timely?
Well, the minutes since then have been done.
Okay.
But just not posted.
I understand. And regarding the legality of minutes at large as well as private closed session minutes, I just need some clarification. Is it a legal requirement that closed session minutes are indeed posted? Redacted, however they need to be.
Nothing has to be posted. No, so the simple direct answer to your question is no, there's no legal requirement to post it. Under the state statute, they have to be completed, that can be available by the public for inspection,
Fair point.
but nothing can be posted.
I'm with you. Let me rephrase.
Yeah.
Is it a legal obligation that closed session minutes need to be made available?
Yes,
Are the closed session minutes of these meetings available?
in redacted forms, depending on the specific request and the subject matter, yes, if you're asking for a specific closed session meeting minutes, a request is filed, and yes, they're available.
But do they need to be requested, or can I walk in and just ask to view them?
That's a request, so yes, they have to be requested.
So I could walk in tomorrow and view all closed section minutes that are currently recorded.
No, can't do that because again, there's a requirement to review those closed sessions to determine.
Understood. So the ask has to go in and then they have to be redacted based upon the ask.
Possibly.
Okay.
I don't want you to have a misconception that
No, I
if you
understand.
could walk in, and I don't want to create an unrealistic expectation that you could walk in, speak to the clerk tomorrow and say.
Yes.
I spoke with the solicitor of public meetings, said I can walk in and view X date meeting. minutes. That-
Absolutely. I would navigate this the way it absolutely needs to be navigated.
You can ask, if you can. Specifically identify what you're asking, what you would like to see, that allows all of us, the borough clerk, myself. To timely give you a response.
I understand. With regard to the way these meetings are conducted, there are agenda items. This is the moment to ask about the agenda, but to the point. We only get the packets before the meeting. And we have, without, the agenda items are covered later in the meeting, but then there's no ability to talk about those agenda items after they've been discussed. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
We can talk about that after the fact.
Yes, you can talk about
Great.
during the second session, which is indicated at every meeting on the agenda, and it's an honor at every meeting.
I'm with you.
So David, so the reason the agenda items are first is so that we can hear opinion before we take action on it
Yes.
today. Then whether you're happy or not with that action, you have a second opportunity to tell us.
I'm with you. The second reading tonight, the language that's being, voted on, is that the same language that was submitted in the prior meeting regarding the unlimited rental units, additional acreage, dog park, setback, et cetera?
Yes, it's been publicly available for almost 2 months now.
I'm with you. That language would be in the packet that was distributed this evening as it was in the prior meeting.
Yes.
I don't find that language in the meeting.
It's-
I find the planning board document and I do find an original Bancroft document, but I don't see language regarding those specific things that were called out in the prior meeting that people referenced, including myself. I'm struggling to find it. I don't find that language in the packet.
I think in the first packet, it was redlined because it was the first reading and this is an adoption. document, so it's- I don't think a redline version is here.
Even with that, I struggled to find the sections of the document where these data points were called out. These changes were. called
Okay,
out.
time's up.
I am Lauren McGlade in Netherlands Industry. I just want to, reinforce what Joel had said earlier about builder's remedy. I'm definitely, worried about that. I'm worried about the lawsuits that are coming towards us. I would love for there to be a tax neutral solution. I know that there has been, some mention of maybe a mini wood bonds plan. I'm wondering if that's a possibility, if they would be open to that. So yeah, those are my concerns. Yeah, we'll be able to discuss that in more detail, but with regard to what we want to do, because we probably heard me say that the extremely concerning, that's one of the reasons I continue to, we want to make sure that we are, basically addressing our legal obligations on conflict of interest and according to the settlement order. In terms of meeting with Woodlawn, et cetera, again, that our meeting in November and October, we'll get to the negotiation letter in order to be able to reach the agreement with the selected redeveloper. So at this point in time, if we're able to move forward with honoring the agreement and taking part in having the amendment, then our good faith impact would be that we continue negotiating with the developer as to the design or with the site plan, all of that, and remove that application to go before historic preservation, to historic preservation often, the planning board, and any other agencies that the county soil conservation.
Nobody can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you. So, yeah, just to reiterate briefly, sorry for those on Zoom who couldn't hear me. Thank you, Frank. Essentially what I was just saying in response to Ms. McGlade's question is that if we are able to move forward with adopting the amendments to the redevelopment plan, then we are honoring our legal obligation under the contract with Woodmont. We would also then be honoring our obligations legally under the settlement agreement with Fair Share Housing and the active litigation, and our constitutional obligation, which means then we can get to the point of potentially negotiating the entire site plan, the unit counts, and all of those things. And I think that that's where the community generally is hoping things would go. Thank you.
Mayor, just before we move forward, the ordinance is between the planning board letter and the redevelopment plan.
Are you speaking to Mr. David?
Yes, concerning the wording you're looking for. It's right after the pages from the planning board. It says ordinance 2024-12.
Thank you, Sharon. Yep. Anyone else in the room before we go to Zoom? Hi, my name is Carol Stoner. I'm on Avondale Avenue. You're gonna talk tonight about Bancroft and Woodmont and how many units you'd like to put there. At what point is enough going to be enough for this town? We've pulled all of the apartments that you're planning to put in this town, and you're going to pack them downtown with bunches and bunches of apartments. And now you want to put 120 more apartments on Bancroft. At what point is this town done being overdeveloped? We know what you're doing on Redmond Avenue. We know what you're going to do with the place next to TD Bank. We know what you're going to do across the street from that. It's all posted on Facebook. At what point is this town going to stop becoming a city? I didn't move here. I moved here being in a small town. That's what it was when I moved here. It's no longer a small town. It's impassable. I wouldn't even let my kids now these days even walk to school. It's impassable. At what point, commissioners, is this going to stop? I went to the planning board meetings. I've been to the zoning board meetings. When does it end? When is enough people too many? We are all feeling it. People who came here tonight, we're feeling it. We can't get our kids to school. People are asking for buses now because they're not going to be able to drop their kids off to the middle school, to elementary school. They're not going to make it. And at what point do you have too many kids in the school? Your middle school can't handle it, your high school can't handle it. At what point are you going to say this is enough? Are you just going to have an open thing and just keep saying, just keep building, keep building, keep building? 120 units, no problem, because we're going to get 10 affordable. We can do 10 affordable with guidance us. So we the people would like to know when is enough, when you can double.
Item number 260, we read, with respect to item H, can you explain what happens next? For example, there would be a public hearing that follows this.
I just don't want to take all your time, because is that the main question?
That's it, yeah.
Okay, sure. So what would happen next is redevelopment council is here to again, just give background on where we are in the process. And then we would open to the public again, if we make it that far.
In January,
No, this evening. So this
but
evening,
this doesn't say public hearing.
The second reading,
Right,
yes. I think. they-
shouldn't the public hearing be stated? Because otherwise the public has no notice that there's a public hearing. Or does a second hearing, does a second reading imply public hearing? I wouldn't have thought that it did.
Yeah, I would have to look, but I'm fairly certain that's how most of our agendas read as well, but I can check with the end.
Okay,
Yeah,
I may well be wrong, I just would have expected to see those words.
right. No, understood. If lawfully, all second readings would require we move into the public for the hearing on that specific ordinance before we can take any action on it.
Oh, so what that means is that when you get to this point in the agenda, that there'll be time for public comment.
Yes, specifically on that ordinance, exactly.
Okay,
Yes, thank you.
thank you.
Mhm.
Joan Gilmore, 37 Elm Street. And I was just wondering why the borough website does not have anything on the affordable housing page. Nothing.
That's correct. It's a brand new page. It's being built out. And one of the reasons there's nothing new on it, there's a section that will be coming because just last month, 2 months ago now, the fourth round rules for affordable housing were reestablished. So next month, between now and January, we have to collectively process what our requirements are with our affordable housing planner and affordable housing council, excuse me. And then from there, we will be posting on the website all of the updated information related to affordable housing for the borough. So that's a look ahead of the fourth round application, anything related, excuse me, to where the sites would be, things like where our scattered sites or infill sites are throughout town that we own, or that the housing agency owns. And also information on how to enter the lottery to be considered if you're someone who wants to hopefully, have a place in one of the units.
So prior to this, you've never had anything available that has said where the affordable housing is? Anything like that? Like there's been.
To my knowledge, before our time on the board, no, but Sharon and Dad are, have more longevity than we do.
Okay, because, I mean, we do have affordable housing apparently, right?
Yes, we do.
But there's no place that says where it is or.
There's no consolidated place, it's all over the place, like, pretty little pieces.
Okay. Will the affordable housing that's going up behind here, will that be subsidized?
No, this isn't subsidized housing. This is housing that is rented only, behind here. And the rents are set based on metropolitan guidelines by the state. So Camden Metro, Camden Gloucester, I believe, Burlington have the same scale of rents. And what happens is you go into the lottery, if you're selected, they income qualify you, so they make sure that your employment and all your sources of income match what you're telling them. And then you pay that set amount of rent yourself. There is no subsidy that comes to the borough. There's no rent paid to the borough. That's actually paid to the company that manages and operates that house.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice.
No, that's fine. So none of the affordable housing that we haven't had to build is subsidized.
That's my understanding. I can't speak to what was developed before us, but Tornado Commons, for example, is over, is it computer sharing? And that's rentals paid to Ingerman, I believe is the company. Yeah, sorry.
I just call that one.
Okay, so, and so they pay their rent directly, East Street Ingerman was the company that managed that, but again, not subsidized. Now, they pay it with any form of their own income, which might come from government benefits or such.
No, that's fine. I was just wondering if it's subsidized.
No, and there's 3 different tiers. There's very good, low, and moderate. And we have an obligation to provide all 3 types.
Yeah.
So you're qualified based on that income and family size. Right. Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the room before we open to Zoom? Okay, let's hope we don't have a repeat meeting on Zoom. We are now open to anyone on Zoom. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand so Joanna can call on you. Or you can type into the chat.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go with Shayna first, Shayna Marshall.
Hi,
One
Shana,
second.
yep, Shana Marshall, 72 Center. Just my regular check-in on Zoom regarding the logistics here. Deanna, you sound great. Frank, you sound great. The public comments I can hear great. The reports in the beginning were great. Dave and Colleen, if you guys can just like actually slide the microphones toward you, like however Frank and Deanna are doing it, it sounds great over there. Because
Okay, Shane, how's this?
awesome. Thank you. Thank
Okay, thank you, Shayna.
you very much.
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
I think that's the first time I've ever told I couldn't be heard.
And anyone else?
Maybe type if it, type there if anyone that has any questions.
Sure.
Okay, so Joanna just typing in for those of you on Zoom, if anyone has any additional questions, just please raise your hand and we'll call you by name or number.
Looks like we're good.
Okay, seeing none, commissioners, could I please have a motion to close to the public?
Motion. Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezich.
In favor. Okay, next we have our redevelopment council, Matt Jessup here, Matt, I think you are right on the stage.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, commissioners, Matt Jessup, Madam Scotland Bowman. I wanted to, before you consider the ordinance tonight, which would approve amendments to the redevelopment plan, and we'll go through those amendments in a minute. I wanted to bring you up to speed in terms of where we are today versus where we were when we last all spoke in public at the November 12th Borough Commissioner meeting. Of course, at that meeting, we considered the recommendations and the inconsistency finding by the planning board with respect to the Bancroft redevelopment plan. As a reminder, the borough commissioners can adopt a redevelopment plan, notwithstanding the finding by the planning board that it is inconsistent with the borough's master plan, provided that by a majority vote of the full borough board, you state the reasons for why you're moving forward, notwithstanding the inconsistency determination. And ultimately, those reasons get stated in the redevelopment plan itself. With respect to the recommendations made by a planning board, you are allowed to accept, modify, or wholly reject any or all of those recommendations. Again, if you modify or you reject, it is by a majority vote of the full Borough Commissioner Board, with your reasons for so acting recorded in the minutes of the meeting. So we went through that process. You'll recall at that meeting on the 12th, there was not a vote with respect to either the inconsistency determination made by the planning board or the recommendations made by the planning board. And as a result, the ordinance, which at the time was up for second reading and public hearing and final adoption, also was not voted on. So that still stands as introduced. That night, we did hear from two representatives from Fair Share Housing Center who said that they believed that if the borough did not take action that evening, that the borough was basically in violation of the court's orders with respect to our third round affordable housing litigation matter.
and that the Fairshire Housing Center would move to revoke the borough's builder's remedy immunity, which means the borough would then be susceptible to a builder's remedy lawsuit filed by one or more developers with respect to basically any available land in the borough for further development. On November 21st, we had a hearing with the judge, with Fairshire Housing Center, with your solicitor. And Fairshire Housing Center reiterated to the judge their position that the borough had in fact violated the court's order in not moving forward that evening with consideration of the redevelopment plan amendments and ultimately a redevelopment plan and purchase and sale agreement with Woodmont. That resulted in this court order being submitted by Fairshire Housing Center to the court. And it says a couple of things that I think are important for the benefit of both commissioners and the public. First, it's a judge declared an order by the judge that at the December 16th meeting of the Borough Board of Commissioners, you consider whether to approve the amended redevelopment plan, notwithstanding the inconsistency finding by the planning board, that you consider whether to accept, reject, or modify the recommendations made by the planning board, and that you hold a public hearing and consider for final adoption the amended redevelopment plan. It also, the judges declared and orders you no later than February 10th of 2025 to consider a resolution approving a redevelopment agreement and a purchase and sale agreement with Woodmont for the development of the Bancroft property. If we fail to do that by February 10th, 2025, for any reason, quote, the borough shall show cause as to why the immunity granted in this litigation should not be revoked and why the borough should not pay applicable fees and costs for the time spent by parties responding to the failure to comply with the court's orders through submission no later than February 12th, 2025. So we have 2 days to show cause as to why our builder's remedy immunity should not be rescinded and why we should not have to pay all of Fairshire Housing Center's legal costs in connection with this matter. And that there's an additional briefing schedule, and ultimately there will be a court meeting by the end of February to determine whether or not to revoke the borough's builder's remedy immunity. So that's where we are with respect to the court hearing and the court order submitted by Fairshire Housing Center to the court. Now, I think it's important as we go into the redevelopment plan to remember that the redevelopment plan is a zoning document that sets the outer perimeters or defines the box within which a project has to live or be designed without asking for a variance or some sort of deviation by the planning board. It does not mean that the project has to be built as set forth in the redevelopment plan. So importantly, as part of the sort of two-step court order process that you just heard me walk through, one part is to consider the redevelopment plan, which creates the box, right, the outside parameters. But the second piece is to adopt a redevelopment agreement and a purchase and sale agreement, which of course is the specific contract between you, the borough, and the redeveloper, which will define what actually is allowed to be built on the Bancroft property. So a great sort of illustration of that is the redevelopment plan may allow 120 units to be built at Bancroft. I heard that number mentioned earlier. That is true. The redevelopment plan, it allows that today. Pre these amendments, by the way, it's allowed 120 units for years. That notwithstanding, the plan may allow 120 units, but we have the ability to contract with the redeveloper in a redevelopment agreement to build lesser units if we want to. The problem, and it's the redeveloper agreement. The problem, of course, would be if we all said we want to build 130 units. Right now, we're outside the box created by the redevelopment plan. So this two-step process that we need to go through is important. One defines our outside parameters, the other specifies what we will and will not allow the developer to build, what property we will or will not sell to them, how much property we will or will not sell to them, and all of the related parameters of that project.
So specific to tonight, you have the redevelopment plan amendment that was introduced by you, referred to the planning board, the findings and recommendations, and now back before you again for consideration of final adoption. The planning board made a couple key findings that you would need to address if you want to move forward tonight. The first is the inconsistency finding. The planning board found that the amendment to the redevelopment plan that allows for rental housing units at Bancroft is inconsistent with the master plan. So they recommended that the governing body reject that proposed amendment as being inconsistent with the master plan. Again, as we noted, you are permitted to move forward, notwithstanding the inconsistency finding with a vote of a majority of the full governing body. Importantly, although this doesn't require action by you, the planning board found that none of the other redevelopment plan amendments are inconsistent with the master plan. So it is only the rental provision. And as a reminder, any affordable housing on this site has to be rental housing. And if you're going to have rental housing, the only way to make it inclusionary, in other words, basically the units are hidden within the entire project, is for all of the project to be rental. The planning board did make 3 additional recommendations for you to consider tonight. One was our change, or the proposed change, to allow 120 units of 7 acres to be allowed across 8.2 acres, to increase the amount of acreage to build the same number of units. And to require at least 15 affordable housing units, which is a change that you were looking for. And they are recommending, the planning board is recommending that you do not allow 120 units over 8.2 acres, rather that you limit 120 units to 7 acres. And that you do not require at least 15 units to be affordable in that circumstance. That is a recommendation that you can accept or reject. The second one is with respect to setbacks relative to height. Currently, the plan says if any building is over 40 feet in height, for every foot in addition in height, you require 2 feet of additional setback. And the proposed change in the redevelopment plan was to change that to be a 1 foot additional setback for every foot in excess of 40 feet in height. Again, the planning board recommended that you not make that change. The planning board did acknowledge that you've made other amendments to catch up the text. There were no issues there. And they also noted conservation restrictions and open space elements, recommended you adopt as proposed. So the only 2 things, or arguably 3 things, that you have to address from a recommendation perspective are the ones I mentioned earlier. Finally, I do think it's important reminding the commissioners and the public that the planning board specifically noted that the commissioners comply with these recommendations without jeopardizing the realistic development potential at the site, which realistic development potential is, of course, sort of a term of art in the affordable housing world. It basically means that you do not jeopardize the affordable housing obligation that we have. And of course, I would then tie back to the court order that we are now again under. So before you were to take action on the redevelopment plan ordinance tonight, you would need to consider that inconsistency finding and those recommendations that I highlighted by vote. And then if that does pass, then we can move forward to public hearing on the redevelopment plan ordinance, which I just want to note for the record was published by the borough on November 29th in the borough's local authorized newspaper, and advertised that there would be a public hearing tonight for any member of the public to attend at 7:30. And after that public hearing, you're free to consider the ordinance for final adoption. We are not considering a redevelopment plan tonight, a redevelopment agreement tonight. We're not considering a purchase and sale agreement tonight. We're not discussing what we may or may not ultimately allow Woodmont to build tonight. As you heard from the court order, we have until February 10th of 2025 to do that, but we only have until December 16th to consider the redevelopment plan, defining the outer limits of our lots. In order to remain compliant or potentially lose our immunities to builder's remedy. And finally, I'll give this council packet back to Deanna, but the redevelopment plan that's included in here does still contain the red line versions of the changes that I just discussed, called out for the benefit of the reader. So there are still underlines and crossouts in all the applicable places in the public packet showing the redevelopment plan changes. Sorry for stealing that from you. Stay here for the moment to see if you all have any concerns.
I just want clarification from Sal or from you, Matt, on the review of the planning board bankrupt. I can give opinion and vote on that.
Yes.
I cannot vote on the ordinance. It is a second reading.
Correct.
I was not here for the first reading, so I can't second something that I wasn't part of the creation process.
Right, so any
You're
vote,
part of the ordinance.
right, so any vote on the inconsistency finding, which takes a majority of the full governing body, or the recommendations, which also takes a majority vote of full governing body, you can participate and vote in those. Final adoption of the ordinance, because you are not a commissioner at the time of introduction, you cannot vote on.
Sure, but I can give my opinion.
Oh,
No, no, I'll be
no,
right.
So I'm gonna take this time to, if you.
I am.
Good? Okay. Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna read a statement, so that you kind of understand my thinking, since I cannot vote on the ordinance, then this is more for, Frank and Colleen and for the public, to understand where I'm coming from. So I am a train guy. And I can recognize a train that has traveled hard down the tracks. We as a borough are very far down the track, so to speak, on this issue of background. And like a train, pulling the brake cable doesn't mean it stops on a dime. And this train isn't stopping you. As a commissioner, I am committed to fulfilling our legal obligations while preserving Haddonfield's unique character and quality of life. I support moving forward with the proposed ordinance for Bancroft site because it is the next necessary step to ensure we remain in compliance with our court orders. Failure to adopt this ordinance would jeopardize our legal protections against builders remedy lawsuits, which will result in developments far beyond our control and with far greater impacts on our community. While I share the concerns of many residents regarding the size and scope of the current proposal, adopting this ordinance gives us the only opportunity to engage in meaningful talks with Woodmont Properties, the developer of record. This ordinance establishes the maximum development parameters, and we will now pursue, if this passes, through negotiation, adjustments that better align with our community's needs and priorities. I also want to take this time to acknowledge Commissioner Frank Troy and his efforts to engage with the community, including the recent gathering where residents shared their concerns and ideas. This invaluable input is helping us develop the framework for negotiations as we prepare to work with Woodmont to seek a more balanced project. With compassion for our community and respect for our legal responsibilities, I believe this is the most prudent and responsible path forward.
Before we vote on this, thank you, Dave, for your words there. So for those of you who were at the November meeting, I did not second, and therefore it basically stalled. And one thing I promised was quick action to try and learn from the residents, knowing pretty much it was going to go in this direction anyway. Just having enough knowledge of working this now for 3.5 years. And so on November 18th, we had a meeting at a local establishment. There were probably about 30 people there. And I took down some ideas and took down, I think, a few focus areas. And then I took to social media for the next 4 days, finishing on November 22nd, basically getting input from every single person who contributed. And, some people had said that it wasn't scientific enough. That's pretty fair, that's in the feedback, but, I'm an MBA, not a scientist, so, putting together a Pareto analysis and put it on social media is probably about as good as I'm going to do. But having done some business for 20-some years, you learn a lot of information on here. And I'll summarize this, and if anyone is interested, maybe I'll post it to the social media, but and this is combined both at the establishment and then the social media. There are about 77 responses. During that week, I had 7,800 impressions. An impression is defined as the total number of times social media browsers have been showed my content. So every time someone looked at my phone, that's considered an impression. So that, and by contrast, the week before, I had 783 impressions. So that 4-day stretch was basically a lot of people looking at it, and a lot of people had the opportunity to reply to it if they couldn't make it in person. And in total, I had about 77 responses. So nearly, it's called 1% of the 8,000 impressions of the people that saw it. I've said this before, and I mean, this is kind of like a bitter pill to swallow, but Colleen can attest this, as can Dave just recently over the last few months here. When you go door to door talking to people about Bancroft, you learn more and more that there's a large portion of the residents here that don't even know what Bancroft is. That they don't know the history. Their kids are probably graduating high school this year, and they've known it to be nothing more than a dilapidated property and never saw any value in the property, unfortunately. My dad was an attorney here for 35 years. We walked that property. He had had some interactions there over the years. His office was right on the street there, so I know the property well. Part of the reason why I ran for commissioner is when I moved back to New Jersey after a 25-year hiatus, I ran through there, heck, when I was running. And I could not believe how bad it had gotten in the 2.5 decades I was gone. So that's part of the reason why I ran for commissioner, is just saying that we had to do something with this, and I have to do something with the properties here. There are a lot of people that have attended these meetings that take to social media. Some of them are former elected officials, some of those are people who just care about the community. And a lot of them have great ideas, and they have great initiatives, and they have great passion. But the one thing none of them have, and I don't include, is time. And as Commissioner Seidel alluded to, we're out of time here. And I was going to fight a battle for Dave Seidel to be on board, because he met a lot of you out there, he met a lot of people out there, and made commitments to do everything he possibly could in the time period that he has to make the right decisions for the borough. And I just think it would not be fair to deny him of that clearly after he won the election, which is why I pushed for it, but also made a firm commitment to fair share housing folks in office, or I'm sorry, in presence here that night. We're going to move quickly with it, which we did. So if you listen to the people, many of you attended meetings, many of you replied, via Facebook. A lot of people are people I've never met before. So people place a premium on open space. So if you look at the occurrences, people, the lion's share was about 50 to 75%, or what they wanted for affordable house. I'm sorry, what they wanted for open space outside of affordable housing. The next stat here is, acceptable tax increase. If you take the average of it, most people were okay with between a $250 and a $750 year increase in taxes to essentially pay a premium for that open space, so to speak. Proposed development, the overwhelming majority there, 51 of the 77 respondents, wanted condos or slash ownership. But about 16 others wanted a mix of rent and own. And about another 13 wanted Woodmont as proposed. So, and truth be told, I'm sorry, and about 6 people there said for rent. And I'm glad of this, because personally, I've never met anyone who said they wanted full rental units there. So the feedback and open it to the public, give me some pretty good data points here that I had never seen before. And then I asked for other input, and I'm gonna cap this at, seven, which is kind of like a good cutoff point. And then beyond that, the information kind of gets less and less valid. But this is where people place a premium, and it's going from, the highest to, to the least. Areas of concern, let's call them, is overcrowded schools, traffic, age-restricted housing, delays putting the borough at risk, the pilot tax treatment, development, stormwater management, loss of historic value, unscientific collection of survey. Again, that was a ding on me, that's fine. I mean, they've got enough, responses out there to make it on the Pareto. Before we get into only an open space, and the final one is open space grants should be pursued, and there was like kind of miscellaneous stuff there. So the reason why I'm reading all this is, before we vote here, as articulated by our council and by Mr. Seidel, this isn't, how it's going to finish. This is kind of the starting point to get us to the next step. We're going to have some negotiations. And, I thank everyone for your input, be it in person, via social media, or via text or any other ways there. And I will be using your input, and we'll be using your input to try to design the next phase of this, working with Woodmont, if the vote goes through tonight, and with the target of meeting our legal requirement in February. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Okay, before we go any further, Deanna was kind enough to remind department heads should be able to leave by now. Thank you, Deanna. So if you do not need to stay or want to stay, Doug, I'm looking at you. Well, I mean, you don't live right here in town, so I want you to be able to get home safely. So thank you to our engineer, chief, lieutenant, if you. Thank you.
Fine. It should be
Thank you.
fine.
Happy holidays.
You sure? Okay. Okay.
Thanks for. Okay,
Thanks.
so circling back, Matt, just to confirm, we need to move forward at this point in time with, a motion motion for a resolution related to the planning board recommendation, whether or not to move forward with the ordinance, notwithstanding them or otherwise.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? So can you take them in part, or does it have to be in whole?
So the inconsistency finding is its own thing, right, that you'll have to decide on and either vote to move forward, notwithstanding the inconsistency finding or not. The recommendations, you can pick and choose essentially, right? There's 3 of them. So you can choose to accept 1, reject 2, accept 1, modify 1, reject 1, right? Those are modify all 3. So we can walk through them however you'd like, but you have your choice with respect to the recommendations.
Okay, thank you. And you might be able to turn that mic on, so you don't have to get out there.
Okay.
Trying to get a step in.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so with that, I will make a motion to, reject the 3 inconsistency recommendations by the planning board. And those would be with regard to the rental units, the 7 acres versus 8.2, and the setback as related to height. And with that motion, I want to make clear, I said it at length, so I'll spare everyone. But last month, just a thank you to the members of the planning board for all the time and the effort and the work they put into review of not only Bancroft's redevelopment plan and the amendments, but also the master plan, which has been a long work in progress as well.
Mayor, before anybody moves, can I just ask you to also consider in that motion if we're building 120 units, we had proposed to add that at least 15 of those units be affordable. The planning board had suggested we not make that change. So I just want to make sure we're clear as to either we are accepting their recommendation. So we would not be requiring at least 15 of the 120 to be affordable, or we are rejecting their recommendation, in which case we would be requiring 15 of those 120 to be affordable,
Okay,
if 120,
okay,
correct?
thank you. So
But before you move, shouldn't we discuss, because it sounds like you want it all in one.
Well, only because the mayor, I took that the mayor was trying to at least address all of them as an opening discussion. And I didn't want to leave one off the table as you started to discuss them all. I'm not, how you want to proceed from here is fine by me.
okay, so unless you want to.
Well, I want to hear the whole.
Okay, so I will.
Can I interject?
Yeah.
Just to save time, as a professional, what the three of you have a conversation, do you want to do them one by one, or do you want to do it as a package? That may give you some parameters to see how you want to. I think that's an appropriate discussion.
Fine, too.
Want to do them all together, or you want to do them one by one?
Wait, I'm sorry, I want to interject as well, because
However,
the first reading and introduction was for the specific amendment.
as you want, I just want to.
You know, I know,
Yeah.
but I want to be clear that regardless of the discussion, the resolutions will lead to the second reading of the ordinance, which contains all of the proposed amendments.
Yes.
So regardless of the discussion regarding the resolution, the vote is actually on, are we adopting the amendment as put forth in the first reading?
We'll need a vote on the inconsistency and any recommendations that you're going to accept or reject. It can be separate votes if you like.
Okay.
And then after public hearing and final adoption, or final public hearing, we will need a vote for final adoption of the ordinance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The reason I asked the question is, there are some that I would agree with you, like, reject the language that Reynolds is inconsistent. But I would still accept their recommendation of not accepting the at least 15 units, because I don't think it actually impacts the resolution that you will have to vote. Because the number, that sets a minimum threshold, but not a maximum threshold. And since the redevelopment ordinance itself actually has a threshold, we shouldn't quibble over language that we don't want to be stuck with. So that's where I was talking about the reason that some of them, so one of those that's a no-brainer is just the Catholic language. That requires the new watershed rules. Yeah, right, those.
We do not have to take any action on those.
Right. Right, but accepting that the planning board has recommended that we accept them as proposed, and they just ruled on it, so yes, that language is good. So we don't really have to take recommendation, they were just saying, but at the same time, acknowledging their work, so they made comment on it, we should say thank you for that. For the setback requirement, if you want land to be spared, you almost have to give them air. So although I understood at the time as a guide to restrict the box, I think a better restriction is to be had in negotiation. And I wouldn't want to restrict us from horse trading between land and air with the developer to try to satisfy what Commissioner Troy pointed out, which the people want less than 50% coverage. So they want less than 50% land coverage. We might have to have flexibility on the air. So I would want to reject that recommendation that we hold the setback at 2 feet per every, and stick with the original language, which was 1 foot for every foot. And as for the rest of the language, they didn't find it inconsistent. I don't agree with everything that they found not inconsistent, but I also got very bored with the language of not inconsistent, which is very confusing in that.
Yeah. Yeah, we should probably piecemeal. I'm okay with piecemeal that if we just take them one at a time.
I just want the council to clarify, the ordinance itself did not.
Right.
So regardless of what is said in the motion regarding the resolution, what we have in front of us for the ordinance, if we're adopting, is all of the recommended amendments that we have. Otherwise, it's not a second hearing
Right.
and adoption. So I'm not.
And
Sure. Procedure, but I want to make clear to the public, we can't piecemeal it tonight in the ordinance adoption. Because it's the second reading, and your court mandated to do that this evening. Like, I just want to make sure I'm not.
I'm not sure I'm following you, but I'm wondering if we should go through these pieces and then we can talk about the implication to the ordinance?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to start with the planning board's inconsistency finding that rental housing is inconsistent with the borough's master plan, which again, we are permitted to reject as long as we state the reasons in the plan, which can be done subsequent, memorialized by your action tonight. And we have a vote of the majority of the full governing body. And I think I heard at least 2 commissioners saying that they would adopt the redevelopment plan, notwithstanding the inconsistency finding. Or I don't know, I'm not sure if I heard reasons, but which we should put on the record, but yeah, and then take a vote.
And I am one of those commissioners. I was very clear when I was running that I am very against segregated housing. I'm against building one building for 10, 15, 18 affordable units, and then the rest luxury, anything else. I don't think it's right. I'm not crazy about the place in Haddonfield where it's 100% affordable housing requirement. I think it was a mistake and I wouldn't want to repeat it. So, understanding that the affordable pieces have to be rental, that to make them inclusionary in any of those construction projects, that the entire project is rental, I am okay with that, because that leads to inclusionary development. That was my point.
I will make a motion to reject the planning board's recommendation that we not include rentals in our amendments to the redevelopment plan. And building off of what Commissioner Seidel said and what I said in November, I would say first and foremost, we are not legally permitted to discriminate against the type of housing such as rental. We are by law required to create an inclusionary development, and according to our settlement agreement and the terms agreed to in 2018, 2019, and since after, we are required to create at least 10 family rental units at the Bancroft site. Additionally, that as Commissioner Seidel noted, I'm very much against segregated housing. I'm very much against creating 2 separate places that create a form of essentially demarcation and a visible separation or physical separation amongst everyone who will live on that property eventually. And finally, I will say that we engaged in the RFP process as directed by the board, and at no time did we specify or did we require that the developer would not propose rentals. And in fact, we considered all 9 proposals. We narrowed down to only 6, would not be one of those 6. And then we discussed and vetted and met with them, among others, and then we made our selection of them in the spring. So for all of those reasons, I would move to reject the recommendations on the planning board that rentals are needed.
And I'll second.
Voting on that motion. Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezich.
In favor.
So if I may, Mayor, the second item to address is a recommendation by the planning board. Again, the current plan with the proposed amendment is to allow 120 units over 8.2 acres, as opposed to currently the plan allows 120 units over 7 acres. So the amendment that was reviewed by the planning board was to change that from 7 acres to 8.2 acres. That's the first part, and the recommendation of the planning board was not to make that change from 7 acres to 8.2 acres for a 120 unit project.
I will make a motion to reject the recommendation of the planning board that we not permit, again, a box for the maximum of 120 residential apartments or rental units in 8.2 acres versus 7.0. The reasons for that would be, number one, we are simply maintaining the 8.2 acres that have always been a part of the residential developable area of the Bancroft larger site. And in order to, so it's not a true increase in the residential developable area, it's a change in what density we would permit. In fact, the second reason I would state that I'm in favor of rejecting this recommendation is because it actually makes the site less dense. If you build units, whatever unit count we end up at, over 8.2 acres, you're fitting something in a larger area. So we would actually be making the site less dense, which is what everyone, including those who gave feedback to Commissioner Troy, seemed much in favor of. Additionally, with the changes to the conservation area, the wetlands buffer, and related environmental changes in the years since this plan was originally adopted, allowing for development on the 8.2 acres enables us to build green infrastructure, stormwater capture, and better comply with DEP requirements. And all of those will go through soil conservation at the county. They will also go through DEP, SHPO, et cetera, including our own planning and historic preservation boards. And finally, it gives us the opportunity to work to preserve in perpetuity the adjacent parts of the site. And of course, as was pointed out earlier, this is not to say we are committed to developing the full 8.2 acres. This would be the maximum area as is currently in the redevelopment plan, but for the 90 or 80 townhome units, which we are not seeking to develop here, and which included much more impervious coverage than we are looking at here.
I'll put it in plainer terms. 8.2 acres is the maximum we could sell a developer the land to build. I've been very plain. I'm not in favor of selling anything close to that in negotiation. But it shouldn't hold up this process from a wording standpoint. While I still make the pledge that I would never vote to sell 8.2 acres to a developer. So I will second that.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezich.
In favor.
So Mayor, again, if I may, moving right along, similarly, in the context where we are allowing 120 units, the plan allows for up to 105 market rate family units, and we had added the words at least 15 multifamily units affordable to low and moderate incomes. The planning board had recommended that we not add the words at least 15. In other words, if you do a 120 unit project and you accepted the planning board's recommendation, 15 of those 120 would be affordable, period, end of story, as opposed to 15 or more subject to a negotiation.
I'd make a motion to accept the planning board's language on this one, understanding that the language and the rules that are in place are sufficient to calculate the number of affordable units that are necessary for the count, whatever is sold. So I would move to reject, I would move to accept the planning board recommendation to stricken that language.
Is the ordinance does not even state that change now?
Yeah.
The ordinance currently does state that change, yes. Well, the redevelopment plan, which of course is referred to and approved by the ordinance, that's it. The ordinance itself.
You deported it?
In the redevelopment plan, it is on page 15. Page 15.
The intent of that, maybe intent is the right term, legal standard, that is given 120 units. If by way of negotiation or fewer than 120 units, you're not obligated to have at least 15 units.
Correct.
And 15 isn't actually in here, it's a percentage of at least 12.5%.
So that's a separate
Oh.
provision.
Oh, I see.
Right, and that is really the one that would ultimately prevail, depending on where you decide to go with the project, as you guys have been, talking about tonight. So I think the key part of this, Commissioner, is if you are doing on 8.2 acres, as you just, approved, 120 units, and you accept that and you reject the change, then at least 15 will be multifamily. Again, this goes back to my comment earlier. The redevelopment agreement is going to define how many units are actually affordable. So the fact that it says at least 15, you could still make it 15 in this circumstance. You're not required to make it any more, and you would make that decision when we approve the redevelopment agreement. But if you wanted to make it 18 for some reason, you would have the flexibility to do that by virtue of rejecting the plan. You do not have the flexibility of increasing the number of affordable units in a 120 unit project in a negotiation if you accept the change.
Right, but with Frank's question is, if the negotiation drops the number of units, are we bound to still hold the developer in a negotiation to 15 as a minimum?
No, because you would not be building 120 units at that point.
Oh.
So now you're down to the at least 12.5%.
All right, and that's what I was getting at, that language is sufficient.
That's why I wanted to keep going, because I had a,
Okay, so I'll recall my,
Okay. I will make a motion to reject the planning board recommendation that we do not include the adoption of the language related to at least 15 affordable housing units if we construct a project that is 122 units. And the reasons for that on the record would be, I think that number one, this enables us to meet our court order, court mandated settlement obligation. This enables us to move forward legally and lawfully, meeting our constitutional obligation. It also, in my view, and one of the reasons I supported the selection of Woodmont with 120 and 18 potential, was the fact that it gives us more than under our third round plan we set out to achieve, which was at least 10. And my reason for that is if you look ahead to the fourth round and what we need to do in this community, it's our numbers are going up, they're not going down. And a site like this with this size of land mass actually gives us more flexibility so that smaller parcels, we would have more flexibility to allow builders flexibility they need, as opposed to on this larger parcel, being able to say that we've not only met, but we've exceeded our affordable housing obligations. And I think that that would go a long way over the next decade as we have our fourth round obligations in. So that my motion would be to reject the planning board's recommendation with regard to the 15 affordable units. And again, it's placed on the record by my fellow commissioners and clarified by the council. They do not mean you're required to construct 15 or more units. It essentially sets the parameters that if we ended up with a 120 unit development, we would have at least 15. They have a second.
well, I don't agree with all your reasons. I will still give you a second. I don't think that getting a head start on anything is a motivating factor. But I will second based off of the fact that I'm satisfied in the language and the description that council gave us, that it doesn't require us to build at least 15. It doesn't hamstring us in condition.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezich.
In favor.
And last but not least, we have the amendment, which would require for each foot of height of a building over 40 feet, an additional setback of 1 foot, whereas the current redevelopment plan requires a setback of 2 feet. The planning board recommended that you not make that change. To leave it as for every foot above 40, a 2-foot setback is required. So if you accepted the planning board's recommendation, for every foot of building height in excess of 40 feet, there'd be a 2-foot setback required. What the commissioner's version of the plan says is for every foot in excess of 40 feet, there would be 1 foot of additional setback required over and above the original required setbacks for any building.
So this one, I'll make a motion to reject the planning board recommendation. I think it's very important for us to be able to have the flexibility of height with the developer in negotiations to save land in any of those negotiations. And notwithstanding the view, I will say the referendum that just occurred in town leads me to be more comfortable with this because of what the view of Hopkins Lane to the bridge will be fields, a recreation center, and a historic building at the corner. So the look is not idyllic in any stretch of the imagination. And height of a building would be just one of those other concerns. And we're gonna be putting up lights on a field that are well over 40 feet tall to shine down. It might not even be the tallest structure on the road at that point.
I'll second that motion, and I'll state for the record, increasing the potential for for reducing the setback amount to allow for additional height. That, actually allows for us to make the site less dense, again, something I'm in favor of. I think all 3 of us are aligned on that, and, importantly, that the aesthetic there with the steep slopes and the terrain there, as well as the topography that leads to the additional wetland buffer area, and the conservation necessities for stormwater infrastructure, et cetera. I think actually allowing this goes a good deal to allow us to preserve the character and the aesthetic that we are going to achieve for the community. So the visibility from Kings Highway would not be impacted because of the berm, which we're intent to preserve. The tree lines would be preserved, and from Hopkins, the goal is to use landscaping to shield anything within a specific amount of feet as we move forward in negotiation. So with that, I would second the motion.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezich.
In favor. Okay,
Yes,
so now that we are there, any other motions before I get to the ordinance? Okay,
a motion for public hearing?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, so, hold on, I'm sorry. The people are all. Could I have a motion, Commissioner, to open to the public, to introduce and open to the public ordinance number 2024-12.
Motion to open and introduce the public ordinance 2024-12.
Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
Abstain.
Commissioner Bianco Bezich.
Okay. At this time, we are open to the public on one item only, and that's item H on your agenda. It's ordinance number 2024-12, about making amendments to the Bancroft redevelopment plan pursuant to the local redevelopment and housing law. and Tina will apply 5 minutes each, state your name and address for the record. Joanna will give you 5 minutes. When she indicates her time is up, please respect her, and give time to others. Thank you.
I think this is a sad day for Haddonfield. I do. Somehow we talked and contorted ourselves into believing it's a good solution. And I do understand the pressure from the courts. But what I'm watching is the leaders saying, this is the best way out of the mess that was created. A mess of significant magnitude with density that no one wants, with size and scale that was unacceptable from the start. It goes against the planning board recommendations, a large group of people that put considerable thought into what's best for this town and have guided what's best for this town for a long period of time. It opens the door to way more apartments in town, alongside what's rumored and what's known to be coming. At places like Archer and Griner or Wells Fargo. This opens the door before we ever start negotiations to granting Woodmont things that we were never obligated to give them. We were never obligated to give them extra acreage. We were never obligated to give them setbacks. They didn't submit and ask for it in their original RFP. And now we're going into negotiations and we've already given up things that we could have negotiated. Which I don't understand in terms of what's best for the town. There are a large amount of people who are upset with this. And somehow, all the way back to the way the RFP was developed, sent out, reviewed, the verification for it, the lack of transparency around it, has landed us here. Now, with the court has us, a gun to our heads, and we have to do this because we've made such a mess of it. That's what we're feeling good about tonight. We're gonna carve up a giant piece of open space land that we have left. We have so little in this town. And for a long time, predecessors who sat in your seats have protected this town. And protected the open space and protected the crown jewel of the town, which are the schools. And the schools are already at overcapacity. There is not a connection between the amount of students that are going to hit this town and the schools and the bond and the traffic and the 8,000 cars a day that go up and down Kings Highway and Ellis Street. There is not. So we may feel good about what we're doing because we have to. But we have to because of what was created here, a situation that should have never been 120 units. Never anything of that size and scale for a town this small, a town this dense. It doesn't make me feel good to witness what's happening here tonight. I understand and I have deep respect for the people on this commission. I do. Commissioner Troy did a very noble thing, and he's helped me personally with some issues that I've raised with him. David Seidel's had an open ear and he's thought about things. But there are some strange things going on about the lack of transparency, the lack of available minutes. And I think this meeting is made with a black mark on the town that is irreversible. And while some may feel good about what you have to do tonight, remember, we have to do it because it was created. It wasn't something noble that we're doing now to protect the town.
in here in Mullet Street. It's just a lot to observe here. According to the redevelopment, even though you just said rent, it's saying that it can, the dwelling that can be sold or rented. It's still can be sold and rented, right? It's not everything going to be rented.
No, everything with the Woodmont proposal is a rental. The affordable units and the market rate units will all be rental.
Well, under definitions, it says affordable housing, dwellings that sell or rent for a price, you know, or cost, yada, yada, yada. So that's in here. So what are you saying? I know you're saying everything's rental, but that's not what this says. So which do you go by?
There are two different documents. So the proposal that Woodmont has, that they've been accepted as a
Right.
developer, they want rentals.
Right.
This document is a guiding document, a zoning document for anybody. Say we couldn't get an agreement with Woodmont. That has nothing to do, this document would still be the guiding principle for any developer. What the mayor's saying is, the proposal that is in front of us is a all rental proposal
Or Woodmont?
for Woodmont, but this document
But this one
guides,
isn't.
no, this guides anybody who wants to do anything on this land would have to abide by this document, which allows purchase or rent.
Because it says Bancroft redevelopment.
Right.
So,
Right, it doesn't say the Woodmont,
right.
it says Bancroft.
All right. And this one also says, oh, I'm sorry, it's age targeted. Now Woodmont has no age limit. This one is age targeted for 55, which is good. If veterans could come in and so forth, and it would populate our schools with school age children. So this doesn't apply either because Woodmont is not age targeted. Is that correct?
No, Woodmont is age targeted. There's two distinctions. Age restricted is by law. You're not allowed to allow below a certain percentage to live in the community who are under age 55, 60, 62. It's under the state law. Age targeted is a term of art that really means with unit sizes, amenities, accessibility features, things like garages or in-unit parking or access.
So which is Woodmont?
Woodmont is an age targeted development.
And the age target is 55 and over or 62 or?
It's not specified under the law. Age restricted is explicit in what's targeted under the law.
Okay, so Woodmont is age targeted
It complies with the redevelopment. That's correct.
and there's no age? Because this says age targeted, this is not Woodmont, 55 years and older. So it doesn't apply to Woodmont?
No, it complies. I'm just saying that under the law, there's no explicit requirement. This
Okay.
can only be attractive to
Okay.
55 and older.
For Woodmont,
Correct.
all right. And also under public use, this one, again, I guess it doesn't, I don't know why we're even doing this. But it's talking about parking at Lulworth Hall and to have more parking for the high school. They're getting $47 million. I mean, you know, I think that's enough. And for active recreation, it says an athletic field. You know, it would be nice because it would complement the football track and field stadium and an active field. No, it wouldn't. I mean, forget another active field for the school. I mean, enough's enough. We should be able to use that for whatever we would like it used as some sort of open space. I mean, not everything could be for our kids. I mean, they have a lot, they're getting a lot more. And let's be fair to all of residents, that there might be a use that they would like to see it for. And you have the dog run in there, and I did cover that before. I love animals. And you know, it smells, they go to the bathroom in the dog run, you need someone there constantly picking up when they go to the bathroom. And so I hope that this is there because those people that are living in those homes you know, when you're going for a jog or walk or whatever you're doing, a hike, bicycle ride, you're gonna be smelling it, and it's just not the place for a dog run. Thank you.
And,
Time's up.
council, correct me if I'm wrong, the Bancroft redevelopment plan covers the entire area, not just the residential developable area.
Yeah, I think that may be why it's a little confusing. So this plan doesn't just cover the Bancroft, I'm gonna call it the 8.2 acres for the moment, but it doesn't only cover that 8.2 acres. It covers Lulworth, it covers school, it covers multiple properties surrounding. Typically, I think we usually see redevelopment plans that address one site in particular. So the changes here are all amendments focused on the 8.2 acre residential portion.
No, but what I'm
Not
saying
for
is,
those.
the field,
Ever been voted upon 20 units.
Okay, time's up.
and for an explanation, just the field and the auditorium, it's not another one. That is actually moving forward because of the Bancroft rent. It's already previously covered in the redevelopment plan. So it's not another field or another, it's already gonna be happening for the restaurant.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I'm sorry to look at you, I was just amazed that how this is being updated, that you transcribed it right on the spot. You could have it ready for the morning. Thank you so much.
I'm Bill Kelly from Center Street. KOELLING. I just feel compelled to comment that I think it's absolutely unforgivable what has happened here tonight. In order to achieve our third round requirement of an additional 10 affordable units, which everyone is in favor of, you are shoving down 120 units down our throats with no consent of the town. I think I know where the responsibility lies. It's not for me to say the exact certainty. But I'm just saying, I agree, it's just probably one of the worst days in the history of this town for this to happen. And I do understand that I think, if I understood properly, that those items that you voted on earlier and agreed to are needed to be done in order that you might be able to modify the agreement, the redevelopment agreement that we have with Woodmont, to some lesser number of units. Can someone please give me some idea what a lesser number would be? Would it be 120 to 115? Would it be 120 to 70? Would it be 120 to 50? What is in the realm of possibility? I think the commissioners need to do everything in their power to recover from this incredible event that they have brought to this town. Thank you.
Hi, Christina Bozar, Meadow Drive. I'm very excited that we're finally moving forward with this. I just wanted to stand up. I am a lifelong resident here, so that's almost 50 years. And to finally see this moving forward, to see change, to see building, I have loved seeing all of the development we have continued to have and all the change we've had in this town and all of the communities and the dynamics that it has brought to our town. It has made it very exciting to live here, to raise my family here, to be in a community with lots of different people here. And there are also many communities that I'm in as a mother, as a volunteer, as an employee. And most of all my communities are very supportive of this. And I know not everyone is able to come out and to say that. But a lot of what I see is everyone's excited to finally see this move forward. And Mayor, I want to call out specifically, I think what helped a lot was all the work that you put into the communications along with your staff, in getting all of the history out. Because like Commissioner Troy said, there's a lot of people who lived here for 20 years, didn't know what Bancroft was, but don't know what it is. And I know you are always available when you're walking around town. I know that you're a mom, our kids go to the same school. I see you at the school events. I see people talking to you and asking you questions when you want to just be a mom there. And you're always happy to like open yourself up every time you come on Facebook. You always provide your office phone number and your email address here for people to reach out to you and comment directly. So thank you for that.
Thank you. One of the things that also speaking of McDonald and that's our redevelopment council and now our solicitor, those companies would not be possible if not for them and if not for Deanna and Sharon having their institutional knowledge. Because it wouldn't be possible to put out all the information that goes back 20 years, given that our tenure, Mr. Troy and I, is just about 4 years now. So I want to thank our staff because they make a tremendous effort to get information open to the public.
I just want to say thank you to the commissioners and the mayor. I think that this is an amazing turning point that we've met, that the three of you can come to an agreement, we can move forward, we can put this behind us. I'm sorry, this is, I spoke before, sorry, Lauren McLean, Center Street. So I'm just very, very happy that we're all moving forward with the plan, getting this done, putting it behind us, and thank you. Thank you.
Hello, Carol Stoner on Avondale Avenue. First, I want to say, Dave, when you ran your platform, you stated that you were completely against 120 units of income.
And I still am.
Yeah. But by the way you're voting, you're not voting. Frank, you sat at Jersey Java, and everyone talked to you about open space. We talked about 10 units being put someplace else. They don't have to be put in Bancroft. They have to be put somewhere. Everybody talked about open spaces to a degree and we're willing to pay for it. But instead, we're still pushing forward with 120 units. Second, I want to talk about the planning board, why they didn't want rentals at Woodmont. When one owns a property, it's a game changer. It's ownership, it's not transient. What do you get with rentals? Transient rentals and transient people. Have you thought for a moment that this 120 rental units is directly across the street from high school? Leaving our high schoolers at risk from wherever the heck is living in them, in the rentals? And now there's gonna be sports facility across the street for the gym. Let me tell you a little bit last year about what happened that was snuffed under the magic hush hush rug in Haddonfield. A female student at Haddonfield Memorial High School was assaulted last year by somebody in one of the rental units, 1 block down on Park. How safe are our high school students going to be 120 rental units across the street from them? I can't even believe what I'm hearing from the board with Bancroft. It's gonna be impassable, you're not gonna be able to drive to school, you're not gonna be able to live here, you're not gonna be able to drive a car here. And yet you're pushing forward, it doesn't have to be this way. We're asking for you to not have to be this way. But for some reason, 120 units was chosen. For some reason, I don't know, the public doesn't want it. We want something, we want affordable units, we don't want 120. For a variety of different reasons, we don't want rentals for a variety of units. So I'm speaking out for the security of our residents.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Estella. I live on Friends Avenue. Sure, ESTILW. As someone who lives downtown, I would have to say I think we have a very walkable town. I thoroughly enjoy being able to walk my daughter to school and through all levels of school. As someone who lives very close to rentals, I'm happy to see a wider varieties of rentals. I think that when we have rentals, we get to attract people to our town that maybe give us a little more diversity and character. I don't like the idea of having segregated housing just for affordable housing. So I'm very happy to see that land on the edge of town get used in a way that I think is pretty appropriate. I think it gives us a great way to maybe create a left-hand turn and give people an opportunity to turn out of town if we're worried about traffic.
So just some random thoughts on that. I've heard a lot of negativity about this project. I don't think it's a good or accurate representation of most people in this town. I think a lot of us have kids in multiple grade levels, in multiple activities, and don't really have a chance to come out to these meetings. Sorry, I get very nervous when I'm speaking about it. So you get a lot of negative voices saying the same things over and over again. I don't think that's an accurate representation of how most voters in this town feel. Thank you.
John Gilmore, 37 Ellis Street. I think it's egregious that you guys have gone against what the planning board has suggested, and you rejected parts of the master plan, which made Haddonfield Haddonfield. So considering that they did not think rentals were part of the master plan, I think we should have stuck with that. But now we are going above and beyond. And when we meet with Vermont to negotiate, we don't know if we're gonna be able to do that at all. Correct? We're gonna try and negotiate, but what if we can't? Then we're stuck with 120. So that negotiation might not happen. Yeah, so we might be stuck with the 120, unfortunately.
I don't agree with that.
Right, but
I've worked
there's
with
no-
developers for 20 years. You never stop negotiating. Up until the time you turn over the building and you have the keys.
Okay, so. What if they said we want 120?
They could build 120 right now without these amendments, just to be clear. Our predecessors created a plan that enables more than 100 units on a smaller area of land, which would be important. So nothing done here tonight actually increases what Woodmont could have built or any other developer.
But right now it's 120.
Well, I'll disagree with you in one regard. They can build nothing until we come to an agreement of sale. And I've been on the record and I'll go on it again. Wouldn't vote yes for any agreement of sale that was for 120 units.
Okay, so
What does that mean? If we do not agree to 120 units, then we are right where we would be if we didn't vote on this tonight, which is the breach of a court order. So whether we're in a breach of court order on December 16th, because we don't vote on this, or we're in a breach by February 10th, because we can't get to an agreement of sale that is less than 120 units.
So then.
We're in the same boat.
So you're saying that you will not vote for it if it's 120?
I will not vote for it if it's 120 units.
And Joan, this isn't in reference to you, who were speaking out about this. I mean, the time to really be vocal about this should have taken place years ago. I mean, the path was in motion well before we even ran for office, unfortunately.
Yep.
So, you know.
So you're saying I'm not too late? Although.
No.
No,
Right,
you're
so-
voicing your opinion here. Now,
Yes, I am.
and the people who are vocal about 120 units. What is the do nothing option?
I'm not doing nothing. Of course, we have to do our fair share housing, but couldn't we put it some other place in the, like, Archer and Reiner? The police is
We don't own that property. So we have to
Okay.
make a decision today. So
Right.
so the people who don't like 120. What do you think about 400? 500? 600? A Wawa? I mean, it's like. I mean, that's what you're up against here. And we had fair share housing that attended this meeting. They weren't props. None of us paid them to appear here on court. They were very clear about. You know, what we're on the hook for. They attended Matt attended a
We're
court.
gonna
hearing
put
the day
a
after.
Wawa and housing and all that kind of stuff there.
If we don't have builders immunity, they could.
And they're gonna put a Wawa there.
Well, no, they could if the do nothing option needs to.
Nothing option also leads to every developable site in town being subject to tens, if not hundreds of units. So when we talk about Archer and Reiner, we talk about any of the vacant bank buildings, the Rite Aid. In the future, if there is a builder who purchases or enters negotiations to purchase or to build there, they can sue us and the court will tell us, and forget HPC, forget planning, forget zoning, forget the open public comments that any of us commissioners may host or get the input from. We will be forced to bill, and the predecessor that we have said on the record as memorialized in writing to Mayor Rochford in 2019, because it was agreed to by our former commissioners and Fair Share Housing, that they would agree that the developable potential of Bancroft was up to 300 residential units and 60 affordable units. That is the memorialized agreement on our website. It was created before Frank and I ever ran for office, certainly Dave went down the full board at that time. So the option that we have tonight, I've been saying this for a month. I know not everyone wants to believe it, not everyone wants
Time's
to
up.
hear it. But it really is intended to do something positive and have an optimistic outlook for the future of our community. And I think ultimately we will get to a beautiful site. This was an open space. It was a site that did not generate any tax revenue, that serviced the needs of hundreds of students, hundreds of employees, 300 plus part-time
I grew up
employees.
here. I know.
Yeah, right, so something to
It's
keep
a
in
lot.
mind.
It's too much.
Thank you.
I think the referendum until 2 days ago had a pretty impressive result, with 78% of the voters who voted approving what the school board was proposing to do. Isn't it a shame that we didn't have the same result 10 years ago, when the school board proposed buying the entire Bancroft property? That referendum went down by 250 votes. 250. What that means is that if only 125 people who voted no had voted differently at that time, had voted yes, we wouldn't be here tonight.
Yep.
That's right.
We would already have had full-day kindergarten years ago. We would have had Lulworth Hall sold and rehabilitated years ago. We would have had this property that we're talking about, much of it perhaps as open space, years ago. If 125 people had voted differently, had voted yes instead of no, had been positive about this thing. I don't remember the year, but I want you to visualize North Haddon Avenue where the library is, and the big building, 3-story, I think it is 4-story building behind the public library, known generally as United Medical Building. There were homes on that property at one time, owned by the Nicholson family. They offered their properties first due to the commissioner. And of course, as there always is in Haddonfield, there was a lot of controversy about that. The commissioners at the time were not particularly in favour of the borough acquiring them. And they ran what, according to the press report, was a bogus postcard poll to see how people felt about acquiring them. And the results came back, no, you shouldn't do that, it'll end up as a parking lot. It turned out that in fact, the majority of people in the community, according to the folks who supported buying that property, were in favour of buying it. Think of what we would have now on that site at the library if the borough had taken that action at that time and acquired that site. And think of the amount of money and the amount of time that would have been saved on all the meetings and all the plans and everything about expanding the library many years ago. It was hundreds of hours, hundreds of thousands of dollars that was spent trying to find a solution. There were proposals to move the library forward into the park and build behind it, all kinds of things. If 125 people had voted differently, we would not be here tonight talking about this. We would have had all of this wonderful stuff. It's important for you to understand that the commission is doing tonight what they have no alternative but to do. Because if they don't do this tonight, Fair Share Housing will say to the judge, pull the trigger on that builder's remedy lawsuit. And what that will mean is that, as was explained briefly, a builder can come in on the Banquet site and put up 300 or more units on that site without any approvals from the borough, including historic preservation. No zoning approvals, no planning approvals, forget height, forget setback, forget what the things look like, no approvals at all. A special master will determine those things. That's what will happen on the site if the commissions don't vote for this tonight. That's what will happen. And not only at Bancroft. It's gonna happen at Octagon, it's gonna happen at, Wells Fargo Bank. All over town. So if you want to destroy this town, vote no tonight. Because that's what will happen. And if you don't agree with it, please say so. If you do agree with it, please say so. Please explain to the folks who've expressed their unhappiness with you what the implications are of not adopting this tonight. If you go to the website of Randolph, New Jersey, there's a thing about builders remedy lawsuits, and it says it is almost impossible to find a case in New Jersey where a municipality has prevailed against a builder's remedy lawsuit. If a builder's remedy lawsuit is successful in Haddonfield, that's the end of Haddonfield. If the commissioners vote no tonight,
David, your time's up.
that's the end of Haddonfield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, big ones.
Yeah.
You have comments?
Yes.
You have comments?
Open again.
Right, you have comments?
Who?
Call it.
I don't remember what time he had left. I don't like keeping notes of who has how much time.
No, but we will open to the public again. This is just on this ordinance only. We will be open again.
We want to.
We have to comply, otherwise everyone doesn't have to follow the rules.
My only comment is that the
Sir.
mistake was not made tonight. The
Sir.
mistake was made when we signed up for the 120. I
Sir.
think it was not made what they have to tonight. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else who hasn't spoken on this ordinance?
Zoom.
Anyone on Zoom?
I don't know. One more time, Mary,
Yes.
ask them. Oh, here we go. Brett Harrison.
I just want to know what message you're sending.
Brett, we need your name and address.
I'm sorry, it's Brett Harrison, 17 Heritage Road, Haddonfield, New Jersey.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Sorry I didn't start off that way.
That's okay.
Just want to know what message you're trying to send to the planning board and all other volunteers that serve to make Haddonfield unique and try to create a town that everybody wants to go into. All of their recommendations were rejected tonight. Being on the planning board in the past, it's not a good feeling to sit here and watch and listen. They made recommendations. Granted, you don't have to listen to them or follow them, but it sure sends a bad message to them. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
So Brett, I can respond to that, because I am on the planning board and have been for 3.5 years, and on the zoning board probably for 2 or 3 years before that. And they are dedicated volunteers, professionals, but they also said at the end of that they knew and fully understand what's in front of us as it applies to fair share housing, our obligation, and timelines. So that's why they were clear at the end before we adjourned to include in there that their recommendations shouldn't be at the peril of moving forward
Well,
Given
even
the
if,
pressures against us.
even if one of them was accepted, how would that make the approval null and void?
Not sure I understand your question.
It's also hard to hear you, sir.
If one of their recommendations was not approved, would that null and void all of the agreement?
They all have to be disapproved to move forward.
No.
You want to take that? We have
Sure,
2
so-
minutes and 47 seconds left.
Sure, so, any of the 3 recommendations could have been accepted, modified, or rejected individually. Right, so the commissioners chose to reject all 3 for reasons that were set forth on the record, and as to the inconsistency with the master plan. Mr. Troy, you can correct me, but I believe the discussion with the planning board was that rental is consistent with the pending master plan.
Right.
So for the future of Haddonfield, I know that may or may not have been formally adopted yet, but that plan they discussed is, it is consistent with rental. So you could argue it was more of a technicality as to that issue. But regardless, this would move forward, provided that the commissioners address the 1 inconsistency and the 3 recommendations. With respect to the 3 recommendations, either to accept, reject, or modify individually.
And yes, you are correct. About the future master plan, but it was coming at a time where we had a lot of, creating a lot of demarcation saying, is it or is it not in accordance with this? But I would think it's fair to say, if this would go in front of them 6 months from now, they would say it's consistent with, or probably 2 months from now, they would say it's consistent with the master plan.
Right, and I thought that was important just to the point of the planning board and their vision of Haddonfield. According to that new pending master plan, at least with respect to rentals, is consistent with this proposal.
Yeah. Which is why you update your master plan accordingly to keep up with changes in society and towns.
And the pending master plan is replacement of the master plan that was developed in 1984. So it's a 40-year-old document that has been amended, but not rewritten until now.
Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you, Brad. Anyone else on Zoom? Let's just make sure before we go to Zoom.
I was debating whether, and then I just decided why not, I'll take a shot. Okay, good evening, everyone, Lisa Ponce, 305 Mount Vernon Avenue. I can't say I'm not disappointed, about where we are, and you explained it very clearly that, and we all know, if we lived here long enough, I've been here since 95, that there have been tremendous mistakes along the way, but you know, in the last few months, you've heard from hundreds of people with incredible passions about this space. And the last time I was here, I spoke about this room full of probably 200+ people, so excited to give their input over what was going to be created in this space. I had incredible optimism because I saw such people engaged. I saw so many options put out for us. And this is tremendous disappointment. And I'll just leave that there. Then I just want to give you a little bit of parallel. Okay, so I live in a house that's going to celebrate its 100th anniversary next year, its 100th birthday. And in 2002, we were looking to a little addition in our kitchen, literally 8 by 10, 8 feet out, 10 feet behind, to link a missing corner of our house, because we had a porch here and a kitchen here, and there was no way to get to the porch. You know how it goes, 8 by 10. So in 2002, to put an 8x10 space on the back of my kitchen. We had to go to 4 months of meetings. I had to pay my architect to attend. And I had to, because the house that was sitting there for whatever it was then, 85 or something years, was too close to the property line for the new setbacks. So I had to step my house back, 36 of it where it is right now. And then the new addition, the 8 feet had to be stepped back 16 inches. And it kind of made me laugh a little bit. So within those 4 months, we agreed to split the difference. So I only had to set it back 7 inches. Okay? All I'm saying with the humor of that story is I hope you give Woodman as hard a time as I did, an Italian girl who wanted to cook for a lot of people in the kitchen. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else on Zoom?
I don't see anybody.
Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion to close to the public on the second reading and public hearing of ordinance 2024-12?
Motion to close the public ordinance 2024-12.
Second.
Voting on that motion. Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
Abstain.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett.
In favor. Now I have a motion to adopt ordinance 2024-12 upon second reading and adoption, or second reading and public hearing.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2024-12 on second reading.
Second.
Voting on that motion. Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
Abstain.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett.
In favor, thank you.
I'd like to say there's no one up there happy. about this. All this allows us to do is negotiate with the developer. We do what we can. Or not, and never right back and say what we are. We're educated.
Next item, we have resolutions under the consent agenda. This is resolution 176 through 195. May I have a motion to approve resolutions under the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
Voting on that motion. Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett.
In favor.
I'd like to take the opportunity to congratulate Judy Shooting, who is now the tax assessor for Happy. Oh, and thank you, Tom. Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, and can I mention one more thing? That means that now we will make available in January the senior citizen parking permits.
January 2nd, $20, fill out the form, bring it in, we'll have them at the okay, we will have them dropped off at Trinity Commons, the library, will keep them anywhere that you think seniors may be 60 and over. Borough residents, let us know, we are happy to print them out and bring them to you. Okay, next up, we have resolutions under item J, and to begin, we have 196. This is the authorization to advertise for requests for proposals for affordable housing. Very kind. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Voting on that motion. Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett.
In favor. Resolution 197, the authorization to amend the shared services agreement with Township of Maple Shade for construction code services. This was discussed at our work session last week. May I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Voting on that motion. Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett.
In favor. Resolution 198 is the authorization to sign another shared service agreement, this one with the CCIA for participation in the townwide registration of abandoned properties. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett,
In favor. Resolution 199, the authorization to sign a shared services agreement between the Borough of Haddonfield and the Borough of Tavistock for the provision of street sweeping and waste collection services. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett,
In favor. Resolution 200, the authorization to sign the shared services agreement between the Borough of Haddonfield and the Borough of Tavistock for the provision of firefighting services. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett,
In favor. Resolution 201 is the authorization to sign a shared services agreement between the Borough of Haddonfield and the Borough of Tavistock. This for the provision of construction official services and the construction office. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett,
In favor. Finally, resolution 202, the authorization to sign a shared services agreement between the Borough of Haddonfield and the Borough of Tavistock for the provision of policing services. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett.
In favor.
Before we move forward, I just want to point out, and congratulate our solicitor, that for negotiations with Babcock that led to a marked increase in fees that they will be paying Haddonfield for these services. First increase in a while.
Well, no, thank you, thank you. It's not deserved, I think, thank you, but no, there have been incremental increases that are appropriate. Thank you for the recommendation, but not, thank you.
If we cut the fees for all the balls, you hit the woods, I bet you make a lot of money. Oh, golf jokes.
Okay, next, can I have a motion to open to the public for comment on all other matters, agenda or other?
Motion. Second.
voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezett.
In favor. Any members of the public, same rules apply.
And Henry Walnut Street, yeah, just a few things. One is, I don't know how you would do this, but my understanding is regarding affordable housing, that 20%, if you have 5 units, 20% of those units have to be affordable. So if you build 5 units, 1 would be affordable housing. So these builders and developers and real estate agents need a paycheck. And they don't want to do 5 units, they don't want that affordable unit. So just a suggestion, I don't know if that is the state law, about the 20% or what have you, but why don't we change it to 4? I believe on across from the Hippo, J. West's wedding shop is, I believe it's gonna be 4. There's a new one being built down by Jersey Job, I think that's 4. Now, you have to verify that, I know there are 2 new buildings going up. So I think they're both 4, which means neither one of them has to have 4 lights. So I think it's time for change. I'm tired of the builders and the developers saying, I need a paycheck, and they want that paycheck to be in Haddonfield. And Haddonfield is the most densely populated town in the entire state of New Jersey. We're full. You know, even the Maple Kid House has a maximum capacity. We don't. And so they're going around it. And I think we need to change. Just a suggestion, if anybody wants to pursue it. Tavistock was on my list. I think they paid $10,000 a year for services.
No, they paid approximately 30,000.
I'm sorry, it was 3 houses, 10,000 each, 30,000. Yeah, you're right. So how much did it increase?
It increased by almost 50%, so.
I'm sorry.
It increased by almost 50%. They will now be, by almost 100%, I'm sorry. They will now be paying us 49.5,
Okay.
50%. So it went up 19.5, roughly. Right, Sharon, the latest number is 34. So we've been trying to negotiate this for almost 2 years now. And it's something we should be really excited about.
Okay, and finally, just quickly, oh, God, I don't know, it's a year, 2 years ago, I had mentioned I'd go down to First Woods and, we had signs, no dogs allowed, no dogs allowed. I went down there and the dogs were running all over the place, they were running in the woods, dog feces was everywhere. And I suggested maybe cameras, Commissioner Troy said, no, they don't work. And, Chief Cutler said, well, call the police and we'll come down if you see a dog. And I said, gee, I hate to call it. Well, that's what we're here for. So I go down now and all the signs are taken down. Dogs are suddenly allowed. And they are all over the place. And they are swatted. Now, on one of our, the school district posted this. And they had 120 students from high school go down to Crow's Woods. And they grew 120 volunteers. That's how great they are. And they helped clean up Crow's Woods. They removed bags of trash, a car engine, a tire, and more. And I'm sure there was dog feces, unless they did it just after we had all the rain and, it was all dissipated. So what happened? Who was the person that suddenly decided that dogs were allowed? Someone had to initiate that. And why? Kelly, are you listening?
I'm taking notes so I can respond to you and also get the math right on the that stuff. Okay, sorry. I'm trying to make sure I get you the correct information.
So someone had to say, let's take the signs down and let's make it a dog park with absolutely no notice to any residents. It's never mentioned or approved at any commissioners meeting. I don't know why they took them down. There's a sign that says you must pick up after your dog. 120 students had to clean up Crow's Woods. That's how that mess it was. And thank God we've done this, for adults have done this before Hopkins Pond. That was the mess and we cleaned it all up. And that's how we save money by not hiring anybody, Works department, isn't it? So I just want to know what happened here. I want to step in. They were running all over this.
Time's up.
Okay, to my knowledge, nobody was told to take the signs down, so we'll have to go and look, because they're not supposed to be down. There's not supposed to be any dogs on any of our fields. Any dogs going in the woods are supposed to be on leash. They've always been allowed in the woods. But they're not allowed in the fields.
Where there were 4 on the fields where the kids were quite too cold, they're not leaving. They were just running around chasing one another, and there were adults.
We'll look into the signs and get signs out.
And if I could address, you said, you have to vote that construction there. At least when it came before the HPC.
Yeah.
It's only 2 units.
Oh, okay.
It's gonna be 1 per floor. That's it. It's gonna be 2 units there.
And regardless of what is built,
Be 2 units.
as you noticed and you made comment when you asked a question about the rebates or the overtaxes. Every new construction in town helps to fund there's basically an affordable housing
Yeah,
formula
that's somewhere,
on the zoning, when you apply for zoning and you get your CO, you have to pay those bills. Part of that money goes into our affordable housing fund, which will help fund the HAA, is that how I feel the agency? So every construction project, whether it's a single family home or any of this, some of that money does go into our coffers to upkeep and encourage affordable housing throughout the district, or throughout the borough.
Okay.
I'm still adjusting my language. District of borough.
Now, those 2 units at the J West, are they affordable? No.
No.
Are they for sale?
I I don't want to misspeak, it's been a while since they came before HPC, I don't know what happened to the planning board, but, I don't recall if they were going to be 2 units, whether they knew if the owner was going to rent the unit or sell the unit, I don't recall, it's been some time, but I think it was 1 per foot, and the second and third floor, the layout was 2 bedrooms, it's an odd configuration, because it's paper for that.
Yeah.
But it's going to be 2 units, I don't have a.
So it's the owners that could walk Jay West that are.
Time's up, guys.
And have no Jersey job.
And Amy, answer to your question, 34,000 approximately was the most recent payment from Tavistock. We've increased it by $15,500 for the next year, and it was 34, and it is now 49,500.
This is out of my element. It sounds fair to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
David, number 260 rings around, coming in the agenda. Item number 185. Authorization to approve appointments. And somebody who was just appointed, and for what? Sure.
David 25, new maker is, again, good, for the, yeah, like,
No, I'm sorry, it's in here, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't see.
yeah, yeah, the 25. Library board must be in shape.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
And we rejected all of it on
Yeah.
one, and we saw that as we're going back out to, bid for.
Right, okay. And look, this is a minor point, but the call to order. Someone reading that could get the impression that this meeting is being held only by Zoom. So it goes through where it's publicized and then it says, and is being held via Zoom. I suggest you make that, and is also being held by Zoom.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
There could be people who might not have come along tonight if they have read that the way it's written.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone on Zoom? Anyone on the right to see?
I don't see anybody.
Okay, seeing none, may I have a motion to close to the public and open to the press?
Motion. Second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor.
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezey.
In favor. Hi, so. Well, I'm actually, can you talk about what your next steps after tonight will be in regards to discussions of Woodlawn and about the Bancroft property, like, do you have plans, I guess this is more for Matt, but do you have plans to meet with Woodlawn's council soon, or?
I can get the negotiation through county, so Matt, you guys are, who's recon county. Has been meeting with the team of the league, and the discussions will be on. Given the night, the conversation, Richmond, will be that time.
So I guess the timeline on that is just that the negotiations have always been ongoing.
I mean, as to the timetable, I would just go back to the court order that we have until February 10th to consider a resolution that would adopt a redevelopment agreement and a purchase and sale agreement for the property, which are they're not the only 2 agreements we need, but they're 2 of the next agreements we need. So we do not have either of those executed now. There's a comment earlier about an existing redevelopment agreement in place. There is none. So we do have to negotiate a redevelopment agreement or purchase and sale agreement and come to terms by February 10th of 2025.
And just so I kind of have the story straight for the article, why was, like, initially when these amendments, the second reading of the amendments were on the agenda, the purchase and sale agreement for Glenmont was also on there. Why was that on there tonight? Like, why was it?
Do you want me to go in? Sure. So in light of the process laid out by the court, we have more time. So, you know, there was a project initially contemplated. That redevelopment agreement, purchase sale agreement were never considered by the governing body. So effectively, they don't exist. So we go back to the beginning with Vermont and continue our negotiations.
And then on the Fred Lawson side, the litigation, but I guess it's not with her, but you know, our names. Will any developments in that lawsuit have the potential to have a legal impact on discussions with Woodlawn? Or are they like, does that lawsuit not have any specific implications on
I
this?
think they're fairly separate tracks, but one will have an effect on the other. We're in the briefing stage. The next step, according to the case management paper by the assigned judge, is that this week, 20th, the plaintiff is a new file that are in the brief, sending to this positive motion, make summary judgment as the next step. Borough then has to next year file response. Hearing date on February 14th, 2025. So very separate tracks. One could have an effect on the other, but for the most part, it's separate.
And then more on the agenda. The RFPs for Affordable Housing Council, why are you advertising for them?
Well, I think it's fun.
And can you confirm who the current Affordable Housing Council is?
So Edward Schneer from Mason Grove, New Jersey.
Okay, and this, I don't have it right in front of me, and I don't want to take the time to it, but was that firm, did they submit it?
I don't think from me. Sorry.
And then the new police officer that's hired, is that filling a vacancy or is that just a new?
So, we have always tried to have a special law enforcement officer or class 2, and that's an officer that patrols the downtown. In the last year, Officer Ernie, he was doing a great job there. He actually moved into school resource officer. Is that feel to correct me?
Yeah, that's correct. Our SRO had retired, so Officer Ernie applied for that position, was hired then by us through the school. So Officer Ernie's assigned to the school, which left a vacancy for that class 2 spot, which always helped out walking downtown.
And we were really excited to have him back because anyone who's dealing with the middle schoolers downtown, and helpful with the event, it helps to have that experience, have a relationship with the residents, business owners, know him, he's a friendly face, and then also, he's raised his family here, so there's like that familiarity. And I think like his level of just longevity with the borough was a great fit. Some other candidates we might have considered. It's a part-time position, Molly, they're not necessarily finished the academy or they're going through that. And they might only be, a few years older than the individuals they're trying to police downtown.
Yeah.
So it's really helpful to have, and we're really grateful to have that, his personality is fantastic. Yeah.
Mayor, may I just add that I was able to take him and, well, you and I, we did the walk through the downtown district and I introduced him last week. We did a social media post to all the businesses and many of them were very excited to have him back, have him part of the downtown. Some of them, he knew many of them and there were a lot of hugs. So they felt comforted having him be the guy that's gonna be walking around. Sure.
And then last for the shared services agreements, for various professional services, for resolution 194 on the agenda. Are any of these, services new appointments, or are they all reappointments?
They're all the same.
Thank you.
That's just a question for here. You heard a lot of people in the room tonight express a lot of people responses to what is pretty much a cut and dry legal issue. Do you have any reactions to disconnect between what people tell you they're disappointed in or upset about, and sort of the obligations of the law and the agreements that you're bound to? What's going on there?
Who wants to start? It sounds like a question for all, but
It is for everyone.
So we used to have this icebreaker each time I had,
I'm sorry.
I used to have each time I had like a work-related function where I was hosting it, and I had like my teams in there, it was like, they used to have this cartoon that said, you know, like, who wants change? Like, everyone raise their hand. Say, well, who wants to change? Like, no one raised their hand, you know? I kind of feel like it's something like that where, no one wants change. You know, it's probably tough for people who've lived here their whole lives to realize that the downtown is getting busier than it was before. And there are changes that are happening in the state of New Jersey, whether you like it or not, it's gonna come at you. And I guess taking up arms against it and being outspoken about it. It's sort of balance if we want people to attend these meetings and speak their heart, share their input. But I mean, sooner or later, you have to get their input and you have to kind of glean from it what you think you can take action on. Like we will when we with Woodmont. But ultimately, some of these things are just, the times have changed, and the passionate pleas aren't going to change the outcome of it. And to David Hunter's point, earlier, that a lot of this stuff could have been addressed a long time ago. And I don't want to lay the blame on prior administrations. When you run for office, you know what you're getting yourself into. It's kind of like what decisions made in the past, either here or there, you're kind of signing up from that point on. But a lot of these things, the wheels were set in motion years ago. This is really just the point where, unfortunately, you have to make a decision on it. If you don't make a decision on it, it's just going to get worse, and no one's going to remember the person that was outspoken about the 120 units that did or did not get built at Bancroft. They will remember the 3 commissioners that allowed 400 units to get built all over town. And people just accuse us of being asleep in the wheel here, which if we're not, we've been working on this for years, and this unfortunately is just the point where we have to make a decision and look at the consequences, good or bad.
Yeah, I see it as, every decision that was made in the past was made with the best intention and the information at the time, but what it makes is a new constraint that, the next decision is bound to. And then that decision is made, and then it just becomes another constraint that the next decision is bound to. We're at the point where you look around and all the walls, we're surrounded by our own walls. So this is the end result, the middle of the maze, so to speak. And the only way to get out is to stop fighting. I criticized the mayor in a public comment before I was elected to say stop digging, and this is actually stop digging. This is the end result of many years of decisions, which is do the best we can at this point. Which I firmly believe there is still opportunity to do the best we can. But the opportunity for open space was left on the doorstep in 2013. The ability to have very targeted senior living was left at the doorstep in 2017. In 2019, this ball got rolling and picked up steam ever since. So the passion you hear from people is legitimate. It's a frustration. But there's nowhere to go with that frustration anymore.
I mean, I would say, I always appreciate the opportunity to hear from people, and that's how we're informed, that's where we want to get our perspectives from. Christina referenced tonight, I'm the mom of a young child. I'm always out in the community to talk to people of all generations, as a member of the Lions Club, or previously sitting on the zoning board, my husband's in Rotary. I'm involved with PTA at Tatum, so, I mean, I try to immerse myself and enmesh myself in everyone, not just who comes to the meetings, not who talks on social media, because that creates echo chambers. And we've heard and we've seen in passionate pleas that I will tell you, when I was the commissioner putting forth open space and moving the units I've heard throughout town, some of the most impassioned speakers in recent months were those yelling at me and others that it wasn't tax neutral enough. They wanted to save money. I would be destroying the character of the town because of poor financial decision making, or fiscal irresponsibility. And no matter what the answers were for that, or what the plan or the progress was, it wasn't good enough. And that's where compromise comes in. And I respect my fellow commissioners and our predecessors, as Dave said, try to do the best you can with what you have in front of you. But I think for me, it's been a reality check that in the last 4 years, those who are complaining the loudest did not show up to support any solution, or my fellow commissioners who disagree with me. You know, to say to them, we'll give you some support for an alternative plan to what Colleen is proposing, Frank or Kevin or Dave. And instead, you know, we found ourselves in lawsuits, and we found ourselves struggling with a prior redeveloper who, you know, I never thought, I mean, that's what prompted me to run for office. I thought that was a bad deal, and I stand by that. And so we're doing what we can to prevent the mistakes of the past and build upon them in a good way. And I will say that at some level, I think all of us up here, struggle with the use of restraint, if you will. Our own comments, our own feelings, our own personalities, because I don't know about anyone else in this room, but I've been a renter. My parents are renters, my in-law is a renter, my siblings are renters, and it's offensive. I'll just say it. It's offensive and it's repulsive. When members of the community that I love and I cherish, and that I put my child to school in, and that I attend all these events, and I try to lift up all these community events, as we all do, and our spouses do, and our children do, whether it's in their athletic endeavors or their community service hours, we're telling our kids, do good. We're telling our kids, treat each other with kindness and respect. We're telling our kids, set a good example. And if I get to go home and tell my son tonight that his grandparents are less than because they're renters, that's not a viewpoint that I will ever share. And it's certainly not one of the vows to improve or continue to nourish our community. So quite frankly, I think there's a lot of commentary that I'm not happy to have heard, but I did hear someone stand up earlier tonight and say they don't think that's representative. And in fact, it's not representative of two of us sitting here tonight. So I think that we do the best we can to be respectful and to engage and to listen. And I've seen that from all of us in our different capacities, and we'll continue to do that. And I think there is room to negotiate. I mean, I was the commissioner that wanted 0 residential at Bancroft. So the fact that I was the one pushing 120 was because it was our legal obligation. It was the responsible thing to do at the time in the circumstances we found ourselves. And I'll continue to act that way. And I think what we saw tonight is that 3 of us will be aligned in progressing this
and meeting the obligation. And I will tell you, I'm actually really excited about what Woodlawn can bring to Haddonfield. I think it's more foot traffic for our downtown. I think it's, I mean, you heard one of our business owners said that, and he was maligned on social media for saying, as a taxpayer and a business owner, this is good. This is good for our downtown, it's good for our residents, it's good for our kids. It's not going to bring overcrowding. The data's there, the policy's there. It's not going to bring much more traffic. And I believe that if we design this with the input of the HPC and SHPO and the planning board and everyone in the community who's willing to be a part of a solution, we can all be emotional and we can all have feelings, but at the end of the day, we have to do what's responsible and what serves the interests of everyone, not just the only few.
Just for the record, so in record to conflict, what the affordable housing, what the AMI is for the metro area building. So when we talk about this stuff, I've heard a lot of conversation about who the invisible renter might be, as you try to dispel segments, I guess, but like for the purposes of conversation, what's the ballpark? I know it's based on how big your family is and how much you make, but what is the range of folks we could be talking about? Just what do the people like that get for the sake of anyone that hadn't been wondering?
Trying to look that up, read right now, I can tell you, we need more of our volunteer firefighters and police officers.
Yeah.
Than it has been.
Right.
I have the chart. So the chart is, it's on, ahpnj.org website. And it's publicly available documents. So for
Reserve 5, right?
we're Region 5, which is Camden County, so it's broken down by very low, low and moderate. So for one person in a low income, it's $40,000. For 4 people in a moderate, it's $91,520. This goes all the way from 1 by half person up to 8. And moderate, low, and very low, so it's a matrix, but it could be upwards of $120,000. It could be as low as $24,000.
So in line with the wages of people currently living in town?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thanks for going there.
The tragedy of tonight is that all these people didn't hear what the three of you just said, which was brilliant. That's the tragedy of tonight.
Thanks, David.
David, your press, do you have any questions for us? Your press, so anyone, well, he's also, in addition to being a resident, your press, so.
No, I have a comment, I just made it up.
Thank you.
Emily's on Zoom. I don't know if she has anything. Emily, can you hear me? Do you have any questions? No.
No
Okay.
questions.
All right, thank you.
Emily, we have a question for you. Were you here earlier?
Yes.
Okay. I thought we were imagining things. Frank and I had this thought. Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to enter into closed session, please?
Well, and or close the press and.
Okay. They're out. No, not to make up. Thank you.
Why are we going into close? Thank you. I'll second. Oh, I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Voting on that motion, Commissioner Troy,
In favor?
Commissioner Seidel,
In favor.
Commissioner Bianco Bezin.
In favor.
Are we done?
See everyone. Happy holidays. Yes.